All right. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Consistency Corner podcast. I am so excited for our conversation today. Our guest, Fabienne Fredrickson, who, I met inside of a podcasters networking group. And we were kind of going over the things that she speaks on, and something like really caught my eye in that she teaches and helps business owners on their path to $1 million a year, scale with 8 steps to enjoy your business and also enjoy 14 weeks of vacation. And like your girl over here loves a good vacation. And literally on my vision board, when I was starting my business, it was like one of the things that I kept mapping out as a big dream was 6 weeks of vacation a year. And so when I saw that she was teaching business owners how to scale with 14 weeks of vacation, I was like, we have to have a conversation about this. Because that's just unheard of, I think. And so much of the entrepreneurial world is the hustle, the grind. And you see the memes and the reels and the funny things people say, like, oh, I left my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. And Fabienne is going to tell us how it doesn't have to be like that. There is another way. So I'm really excited to dig in and learn from you. And she has been a mentor to thousands of women in business. She is the author of the Leveraged Business, How You Can Go from Overwhelmed at 6 figures to 7 figures and Get Your Life Back. We'll talk a little bit about her book writing process. But Fabienne, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah. So you've been in business. I know you said that it took you about 8 years to write your book. How long have you been in business and been doing what you're doing today?
I've been a business coach to women for 24 years. I don't think there are that many of us who are still around after 24 years, but it's, that's how I worked with thousands and thousands of women because it's been around that long.
Yeah. And I'm curious, as business coaching has become a bigger thing over the past probably 4 or 5 years, you being a seasoned coach who's seen it all, who's seen, the ups and downs, and you were coaching, it sounds like, before Instagram was a thing, before TikTok was a thing.
Before Facebook, before Instagram,
before Facebook was a thing. So you've seen the market shifts, you've seen the ups and downs and the trends come and go. And I'm curious kind of what your thoughts on are just where the coaching industry is today. And, I passionately believe in mentorship, but if you were talking to somebody who was like looking for a new mentor with so much choice out there today, what are maybe some things that you would even recommend people think about before hiring a business coach?
I would say that many people look sideways for coaching.
Mm-hmm.
What is she doing? What's the new trend? What about the funnel? What about the, all the quick whiz bang names?
Yeah.
I didn't want to look sideways. You want to look up the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to ask yourself, who is doing 10 times what I'm doing right now? Who's already put in, if you've read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, you know that mastery comes with 10 years or 10,000 hours of doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look for someone who not only you could borrow their 10,000 hours, but 20,000 hours.
Yeah.
The shortest learning curve is working with people who are already where you are and have been there for some time. So they can tell you, do this. Don't do that. Don't follow that rabbit hole because it's not actually going to work long term. They can tell you what's around the corner and prevent huge time money mistake. That's what I look for.
Yeah, for sure. And I love, the fact that you wrote a book. So you've made it accessible to so many people, the lessons that you've learned and the path that you've taken, but then you work one-on-one with people so that you can really truly customize, right, the steps for you. Because a lot of times when we read the book, and I know most of my guests in my community, we have bookshelves full of books that we have read.
Self-help.
Yeah.
It stays on its
Yes. But then we don't implement or we don't take the action. And I think sometimes the accountability of working one-on-one with somebody is something we really need. Or I can say myself as a service provider, sometimes you don't need a coach or a mentor, you need a doer. You need someone to do things for you. But in terms of business strategy, you definitely
need actually a combination of both, Ruthie. It's a combination of several things. One, you want to be given a strategic roadmap. where you know that it's guaranteed. If you show up and you follow the recipe, you know it's guaranteed to work. That's number one. Number two, so I'm a private coach to just about 3 people a year. I have a container, a community where I coach and I provide structure and accountability and implementation, like an implementation incubator. But you have to understand that the majority of entrepreneurs, 95% of us, are wired to start new things. We're high idea generators. Oh my God, another idea. And I know this because all of our members, we have to take 2 assessments. And both of those assessments, about 95% of the women come with similar assessment results. And it's that we like to initiate. In fact, the word entrepreneur, is from the French word to initiate. So we are wired to start new things, but not wired to finish them. So not only do we need people to help us finish, which is massively important, but we need structured accountability, structured community, in the sense that left to our own devices, we won't finish the majority of things that we start. And then we wonder why we're not moving fast enough.
Yeah.
You don't get results from things you don't fully implement. So that structure is massively important.
Yeah. And that structure, I think a lot of business owners might be resistant to at first, because you think, well, I'm an entrepreneur because I want freedom.
Yeah.
I did this for freedom. No, don't box me in. Don't give me structure. But to your point, like, that's how you actually move the needle, is with structure and a framework.
It's actually what I talk about in the second chapter of my book. The idea that we are rebels. Many of us entrepreneurs are rebels. We left structure because we wanted to feel free, right? I believe that we, when entrepreneurs, start our businesses for 2 reasons: one, to make an impact and make a difference in people's lives, and 2, because we want freedom to and freedom from. And I'm happy to unpack that in a moment if you want. But this idea of freedom, we want to feel free, but too much freedom is we're doing, we're flying by the seat of our pants. When there's not enough structure or systems, we end up generating things from scratch all over again. It's actually infinitely more tiring to not have structure. Structure is what can be scaled. Structure is what actually allows us to do in 2 to 3 hours a day what has taken us 8 hours a day. So part of the mindset, because I teach the mindset first methodology, part of the mindset is understanding that to grow, to scale your business, whether you want to be, you have to do less but better.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to do it all, but what we do, we have to do really well, right?
There's so I'm all about the word leverage. I think about leverage when I'm thinking about my kids, when I'm thinking about what I'm cooking for dinner tonight, what I'm thinking about vacation, and especially business, is we've been taught in school to be good at everything, right? We're going to go for well-rounded education, but there's no way that you could take any single human being and make them great at all the subjects. And it's the same thing with us. We're not going to be great at every activity. So we need to look at the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, of what are the 80% of activities, or let's say 8 hours per day that I work on, that are actually not producing more than 20% of results. Conversely, what are my most strategic 20% of activities, or 2 hours of things that I could do in 2 hours a day, that produce 80% of the results? And this is a big aspect of leverage, which is why we talk about having a leveraged business, because you don't need to do 80% of those things. It's a big myth out there, and keeping us women working evenings and weekends and saying too many times to our kids, one more email and mommy will be right there.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. And so many women female entrepreneurs go into business so that they can spend more time with their kids, so that they can be there for their kids. And you're right, you get into this kind of hustle culture where let me send one more email. Let me finish this thing. Let me go ahead and book another call. Let me reach out to another person because we think that's what's going to move the needle. And what it sounds like you're saying
No,
it's not.
it's actually the opposite. In fact, I want to share. So I teach women how to get to multiple 6 and 7 figures. I've been at multiple 7 figures for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my first 2 kids were 5 and 3 when I first got to 7 figures. And then I had 3 months later. But I shared that only because when you understand that you want to leverage your team and leverage your systems and leverage your time and leverage your business model, time is not part of that.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that this very masculine way of be busy and do more, you don't want to actually do more. If you want to shut down your laptop at 6 p.m. and be with the kids and not have to go back and work on your computer until 1 a.m. and not have to bring your laptop to the pool or to the beach because you're going to fully be enjoying yourself. And that's the leveraged business lifestyle. It's not thinner thighs in 30 days. It's actually about setting up foundations so you can really maximize certain aspects of how you set up your business.
Yeah.
So that you put leverage is about putting a little bit of effort and getting a big upside from it, as opposed to a lot of effort with only a little upside.
Yeah. So I'm curious, when you talk about vacation, where did that number 14 come into play of like, hey, you can build a business, a 7-figure business, and still take 14 weeks in vacation? We come from the corporate world where it's like 2 weeks vacation,
If
and
you
most
take
of us,
it. Yeah.
right, if you take it. And if you often you start a business and you hope to take more. Like I said, I vision board 6 weeks. How did you come up with 14? Where did that come from?
It's actually a very, it's based on my kids. Here's why. So I sound American. I'm half French, half American. And we decided 7 years ago to, as a family, the 5 of us, move to Paris for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to teach my children French because I never did, and I felt a little guilty about that. And the French school system is that you get 2 weeks of vacation every 6 weeks of school.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off throughout the year, the full year. And then you have all of July and all of August off.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to flip things around in my business to fit more vacation time because of my kids. Otherwise, I
Right.
was going to send them to camp every 6 weeks. So that's where it started. But I had been doing this ever since I became a coach. I would work 3 days a week, only the first 3 weeks of the month, and I would take August and December off. But that's my French brain always thinking about how much time off I can take. And this is what we teach our ladies now. In fact, we have these the twin dentists who they were very cute with me. They took more time off than I did this summer. They took 3 full, and they're at 7 figures now. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to up my vacation game to match what my clients are doing.
Yes, that is true success when your clients are doing better than you as the coach. That's so inspiring. Yeah. So you talk about there being kind of an 8-step process to get to that level. What's step 1?
Step 1 is leveraging your team.
Okay.
There is no such thing as a self-made millionaire. People say that, but that you need support. You are brilliant at the things you are brilliant at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, this well-rounded education myth concept of you should absolutely strengthen your weaknesses is a big mistake. I don't want to strengthen my weaknesses. I want to strengthen my strengths and delegate my weaknesses. And so the whole idea with leveraging a team is understanding that if you want to quickly scale your business, let's say from 5 figures to 6 figures, because we teach that too. I created the client attraction system 20 years ago. If you want to scale to 6 figures, you can't do it all yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have people who are good at things you're not good at, people who have time to do things you don't have time to do, and to do things you don't like to do. And when you understand that you can learn to hire world-class people for really the same as non-world-class people, you don't need full-time employees. I don't have full-time employees, and I'm at multiple seven figures. You can bring on people who buy into your vision and who are uniquely talented to work on things, and you're all building the business together. And the team, understanding that you want to hire people who will implement for you, and not everybody will. So use assessments and understand what your culture is. And I know at first that seems like a lot, but once you learn how to leverage your team, it's very easy to double your business in 1 year.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you said people that believe in your vision, because that's one of the things that I talk a lot with my clients about, is being really clear on our mission, vision, and values. Because so many entrepreneurs, when they start out, especially as they're in the solopreneur stage, all that stuff lives in your head.
Yeah.
And once you can get out of your head and on paper, then you can start to attract not only the clients that align with that, but the team, because that's how you're going to amplify and grow, is having an entire team that believes in that vision. So I love that you said that that's a big part of leveraging your team.
I don't think you can do it without a team. There's just so much automation you can do, and we believe in automate, delegate, eliminate. This is everything we teach in terms of how to leverage your time. But doing things with other people, even in this age of AI, is absolutely necessary. It's just most of us have never been taught how to hire world-class people who are affordable and flexible, and who will do great work and finish what they start. And but once you know how to hire them and they stay with you for years, there's really nothing you can't do.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's so true. All right. So that's step number 1. I don't know if we're going to have time today to go through all 8 steps, but give us one
the
more.
first 4, and then I'll cover the last 4 briefly. And again, they're all in the Leveraged Business book. I highly recommend that people read it. The second is, you've got your team. The whole concept of the team is to take things off your plate, remove you from the day-to-day operations of your business for a time, so you can focus on the visionary aspects of your business. So once you've got the team in place, they are the ones who will document, create systems and processes. I think in terms of systems and processes, I just don't want to run them. And so this is about understanding that you are not scalable. Your systems, your processes, your procedures are scalable. Whatever can be made consistent is what can really, that's how you turn your yearly income into your monthly income. It usually takes about 2 years, maybe it takes 3, depends on the person. But it's this idea that when you have a process-driven business, as opposed to a personality-driven business, that can very quickly, in 6 to 12 months, not require you for all the tedious things. So you've got the team running, creating it. Takes us to step 3 of the process, which is leveraging time as your greatest resource. It's the only one you can't buy. And it's the one that slips away quickly. So you've got the team running the systems. They start to take things off your plate when you've got the right systems and processes. You're not involved in the day-to-day putting out the fires. Things can be handled without you. And instead of going to, eat bonbons on your sofa, you start thinking, okay, I've got all these hours back. What do I work on? And we call them EGAs, exponential growth activities. And when you can take your time, and instead of trying to grow and scale your business in between client appointments, which is never going to work, you take that time to focus on the things that are the 20% activities that produce 80% of results. And when you have more time to think and you're not so focused on doing and reacting, this is when you move into your genius zone. This is where, I'm a spiritual person. I don't know if you are, or maybe some of you listen to it, but sometimes you get a divine download, or you read a book, or you listen to a great podcast like this, and you get like the nugget that and you're so excited by, but because you're still so stuck in the day-to-day operations, within a couple of days or a couple of weeks, that idea that could have clearly scaled your business goes right out of your mind. When you've leveraged your time, you actually have the space to think and make real whatever that download or that idea was. It changes everything.
Yeah, capacity is such a real thing that I think we often don't realize is a limiting factor because we're at capacity, mental capacity. And I even see business owners who they're like, well, I have the time, but they don't have the mental capacity because they're still doing so many things that even if they figured out how to do them quickly, it still takes a lot of brain power.
And most people, after a day spent putting other people's priorities first, have no energy to work on their own business.
Yeah.
If your cobbler's children don't have shoes, that's why. Because especially we are socialized as women to not put our needs first and to take care of everybody else's needs, obligations, requests. And at the end of the day, not only is there no juice left for our own business, but we have very little juice left for the people that are most important in our lives. So it's not a winning proposition.
Yeah, that's so true. All right. So what's step 4?
Okay, step 4 is where you leverage a business model. So if you think about how you started your business, how I started my business, it was little Fabienne on the phone, 30 minutes a week, just single clients. And even though I always had a waiting list and I just kept raising my rates, it didn't change anything. People would accept it and pay more and more and more. And what I realized is in my own life, this is not rocket science. You figured it out yourself, but there was a point at which you could be making very good money. There's no more time and no more of you to go around. And so you stay stuck. And most people stay stuck around the 6-figure mark because just the idea of doubling, tripling, or getting to making $100,000 months makes them believe that they will completely lose their life, their sanity, their freedom. Yes, if you follow a certain business model, that will be the case. But I'm inviting us to think about leveraging your business model by leveraging your how you deliver your work to clients. Most of us have a belief that clients need to have their hand held to get results. That is not the case. In fact, I dissuade people from hiring me privately because they get so much more from the entire process, the entire program, and still get private coaching from me in the program. But there is, they receive so much more than just one person can offer. So it's about looking at all the different permutations of how you could be delivering your work to your clients in a way that doesn't have you give up your firstborn, just like holding their hand. So it could be that you have an associate, it could be that you have a program, it could be that you have a SaaS, it could be that you do things differently, but it's all based on your intellectual property. And so when you leverage your intellectual property into leveraged business model, you can work with 2 to 10 times the clients you have now. I say this so casually. I realize how I speak of this so casually because I've been teaching people about this for so long that it's normal for us.
Yeah.
Okay, you can have within a year, you can have 2 times the clients, but work less and make, all that. But leveraging your business model is about getting out of the day-to-day of working with your clients and finding a better solution for them, which means a better solution for you. You get your time back and you end up making so much more money. It's a win-win-win-win.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it goes back to what you said about you have to do step one and then step two and then step three. Like these things have to be done in order because you can't leverage your time and you can't leverage your business model if you're not already leveraging your team and having hired the right team. And I would imagine you probably see people try to skip steps.
They skip steps or they do them. So I have a hiring process that I share, very specific. We call it the Cold Heart Way. And it is a series of steps in hiring that allows you to bring in the right people. The problem is some people will not, they'll give the assessments to their hires, but they won't really follow the guidance. And then a year later, they're like, oh, that person didn't work. And I'll say, yeah, because you skipped a step. Don't skip the steps. We call it follow the recipe. But if you want to scale your business, come into the kitchen. Okay, show up, and then let's follow the recipe.
No.
If you want to make cream cheese, like a cheesecake, use cream cheese. Don't use anchovy paste. It's not going to be the same. So don't skip the steps. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. And it's amazing what happens when you actually put in the steps.
Yeah, I love a good analogy. And so I love that recipe analogy in terms of we've got to have the right ingredients. We've got to follow it in order because it's the same with you can have all the right ingredients, but if we don't do it in the right order, we're not going to get the same result.
It's like I was saying this to a friend yesterday about this. It's not just about reading a recipe. I don't know. I cook a lot, so I cook books that don't have pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that harder. But if somebody shows you, like, come into my kitchen, this is what, if you're making a souffle, this is what soft peaks looks like, and this is what stiff peaks looks like. If you are not shown exactly how to do it, it's going to be so much more difficult. So this is that piece about borrowing someone else's mastery that's made the souffle thousands of times. You just learn it once, and then you've gained that mastery, and you don't have to go and read.
Yeah. And that's not saying you couldn't do it on your own, but you're going to do it much faster if you follow someone who has that experience.
I mean, I joke with people, like, take all the time you want. If you're independently wealthy and you have a lifetime, go figure it out on your own.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, one other question that I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you discussed this, is oxytocin and what that has to do with your business. And I'm very curious for women who are tapping into their feminine, how does this even all come together? And why is this something that we should be thinking about?
Well, I think because you asked me when I started my business, it was a long time ago. There weren't that many female business coaches back then. 7 figures. In fact, now there are, but back then they were almost done. So I was in all the male masterminds. Anybody you can think of, I've probably been in their masterminds. And what I learned over the years is that men and women succeed differently. Not to be generalizing, but I have indeed worked with a lot of people. So the masculine energy is an energy that is a very solo energy. It's an action, doing, competition, accumulation, straight line energy. The feminine energy is a collaborative, community-based, more circular thinking, more intuitive, more being than doing. It is about it's about leaning on other people. And so we all have to say we thrive in community.
Yeah.
But the business environment is not set up for that. Everything that's masculine in business has been rewarded for thousands of years. And we're not getting our needs met as women because we need to talk things through. Okay? But we're often ridiculed in some circles, like, okay, just stick to the point. And what we need that we're not getting is a community of other women who are also on their path to $1 million, who we can share best practices with, understand that a rising tide lifts all boats, that if you were playing the game of Monopoly, I don't actually want to like go for the jugular and win. I want to figure out how I'm going to win the game and you're going to win the game and you're going to win it. Let's all win together. And when we understand that oxytocin is one of our primary things that helps us succeed, oxytocin being the bonding hormone. So when you give someone a hug, or you hear I love you, or you say I love you, you're building oxytocin. When we have children, it triggers oxytocin when we nurse them, etc. And for women, this is our source of confidence. This is our source of success. The opposite of which is that when we are left to our own devices and we are at our computers by ourselves, we talk ourselves out of all sorts of ideas and great plans.
Yeah.
And that's when the law of diminishing sets in of like, oh yeah, that big dream, maybe it's not for me. But if we were surrounded by dozens of other high achieving, big hearted women who want your success just as much as you want theirs, together, there's nothing you can't do. In fact, I created a film about this, a mini documentary. It's 9 minutes. I hired a documentary filmmaking team from California, and I was still doing business in Connecticut. And I said, come and spend a full week with me and hundreds of my clients and tell me what our fairy dust is, our X factor. And weeks later, she hands me the movie and she said, here it is. It's community. And I was like, I can't use this. I mean, I love it. It's gorgeous. I dare you to watch it and not cry. But she said, no, you don't understand. We interviewed everybody and they love the strategy and they love the accountability. But the community is your superpower because women don't get that anywhere else. And that's why they're getting to 1 million. Like it's a normal thing to get to 500,000 or, your first $100,000 launch or something like that. It's because of the triumvirate of strategy, accountability, and community.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I could not love that anymore because I totally agree that community is the secret sauce, cheering each other on. What you said about collaboration over competition. And when you are in the masculine world, that's not talked about. I remember sitting in a corporate role before I started my agency and the CEO was a man. And it was just so like, I would just think like, oh, I don't understand. Like, let's collaborate. Let's talk about this. And it was always like, no, we got to beat them. We got to be better. And it's like, that doesn't feel good to me. And you're right. Understanding that the way we think is different and different doesn't mean bad. It just means different. And so finding ways to stick with it.
Exactly. And if you think about the precedent of women having their own businesses at 7 figures, what is that? Maybe 50 years?
Right.
Maybe not even.
Yeah.
As like a normal thing. So what I do, and I'm sure you do too, is normalize women being at 7 figures with 14 weeks of vacation. Like this can be normal. It's not this anomaly. And you deserve it. We just haven't had examples of it in, for hundreds of years.
Yeah. And not that I have a whole lot of male listeners on the podcast, but if, my husband happens to decide to listen to this episode, it's, your point is, it's not that this is like, oh, well, why is it so special because you're a woman? It's because we haven't had the examples. And that is shocking, I think, for those of us in our 30s, 40s, 50s to say like, hey, it wasn't that long ago that a woman couldn't have a credit card, that a woman couldn't have a bank account, that a woman couldn't have her own business. Like, it wasn't that long ago. And so you're right. We don't have tons and tons of examples of women being successful. And so it's so wonderful to see women championing each other when they have cracked that code and figured it out and reaching back and saying, hey, you can do it too.
Yeah. It's actually miraculous what happens. I call it the popcorn effect. I don't know if I'm just like going to use another cooking analogy. I don't know if you've ever made popcorn, not in the microwave, not in a Jiffy Pop, but like in the actual pan. You put the oil, you put the kernel, and then you put the lid, and you just wait about a minute, and then all of a sudden, you hear one pop. You don't hear all of them like making, becoming popcorn at once. And it's the same thing that happens when you put a woman in a community of other women on the path to seven figures where they get to be powerfully feminine. Is one woman will pop, if you will. She'll say like, "Oh, I admire Coach $100,000 weekend," or "I just made, 500,000 in 6 months of being here." And the woman who's new in the pot, you don't actually have to say a word to her. There was a pop, and she said, "Oh my God, that just happened to Susan? I know Susan. She's like me. She doesn't have anything I don't have." And there's this whole shift in molecules or this belief, these new neural pathways that get totally opened up and rewired because finally Susan realized, oh my God, I can do that too. And that's that popcorn effect. Like pop, and then, pop, not all at once. That's when she starts believing in herself in a way that she has never believed in herself before. And it is just magical to see.
Yeah, that is so powerful. Oh my goodness. Well, we're definitely going to link the book in the show notes because I want everybody to go read it and get the other 4 steps and all the formulas that you share. And I so appreciate your transparency in laying out the framework. And it's interesting, before we wrap up with a couple get to know you questions, it's interesting that you put all of that in a book because in the current content, I think, community and culture we're in today, everybody wants the quick fix, the magic bullet, the 15-second reel. It doesn't work that way. There's so many steps it has to go into a book. Right?
And it, honestly, I'm just being super, but my colleagues think I should not say what I'm about to tell you because they think it's bad, but it's a 2-year program.
Yeah.
Most people would never say that because you've got your 12-week school and you've got your 3-day challenge and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 24 months to put all of this in place. But if you think about it, if you can make a million a year in 2 to 3 years for the rest of your life, how many more years are you going to be in business? Like 25, 30? That 2-year process generates you 30 million minimum. It's like I said, it's not going to revise in 30 days, but if you could have done it in 30 days, you would have already because you're smart. It's all about looking up the ladder, getting the knowledge from someone who's already pennant, and just shortening the learning curve. And being willing to roll up your sleeves and being like, you know what, I deserve this. I am worthy of this. My family is worthy of this. My clients are worthy of it.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, Vivian, I've got a couple questions to ask to get to know you a little bit better. We talk a lot on this podcast about brand values. And so I would love to know, what is one of your brand values and how did you land on it and how does it show up in your marketing today?
I always use the other 3 words: authenticity, integrity, and love. Why? Because I believe that everyone, if you ask any human on the planet if they could use a little bit more love, there's no one who would say no.
No, I'm good. I've got enough love.
But I don't need more love.
Nobody's gonna say that.
And I think there have been so many slick marketers over the last 50 years or so that we are actually looking for authenticity, integrity, and place where we are seen and loved because people go and return.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so true. Well, we also talk a lot here about personal development and growth. And so I'd always love to ask our guests, what's a recent personal or professional development book that you read that you would recommend?
Oh my gosh, I'm reading 17 books, taking 17 seminars. I heard so much on my own mindset. I've looked at much laws of success. You had a great book. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles.
Mm-hmm.
Read chapter 14 That chapter changed my life.
Okay.
That's called the Impression of Increase. And that teaches to all of our members.
Yeah. I love that you know the specific chapter where you read it because it was life-changing.
I've read it a million times. Not a million times. I've probably read it 80 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like reading is something that you are very consistent with, but I always love to ask, what is something that you are consistent with, either in your business or your personal life, that you're really proud of?
Really abundance, and I don't just mean financial. I understand, I've been teaching mindset for so long, that everything we want that we don't have is on the other side of removing our false beliefs about having that thing. So anyone who knows me knows I'm always working on myself. And that's how you create an even more delicious life.
Yeah, yeah. And to that point, we have to keep doing it because it's not a one-time thing. It's not a quick fix. As we continue to evolve, we have new limiting beliefs, we experiencing things, we have new blocks. So we've got to keep doing that work, right?
Proverbial onion, you know?
Yeah. Well, Fabienne, this was such a wonderful and insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. If people would like to learn more and connect with you, where can they learn more?
The best place is to go to boldheart.com, like bold and heart. You can watch that film, that 9-minute film. I always say to people, like, I dare you to watch it and not have tears in your eyes. It's really inspiring.
Yes. Well, I cry at Hallmark commercials and Apple commercials and Publix commercials and all that. So I'm sure this will make me tear up.
Yeah, and I would just recommend, you can also on Bold Heart, you can grab the book. There's free video series. There's really valuable stuff there. So enjoy.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you.